What does saving for the future mean? Do you have a savings account? Do you have an investment account? And what's the difference between those? And I want to know from you, what is something that you are saving for? Do you have something you're saving for? My name is Andy Wren. I'm an accredited financial counselor, and I'm excited to be here to talk to you today about saving for the future. I hope you're ready to jump forward. Every person has different personal finance goals and experiences. And it's really important that we plan for that. And you're talking to a professional or you're developing your own plan with your own goals and your own experience in mind. I want you to take just a minute to, and you can close your eyes if you want, but I want you to picture yourself in 20 years. Where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? What do you want your future to look like? And how much do you think that future is going to cost? So think about yourself 20 years from now and write that down. Write down right now, if you can, where you want to be, what you want your future to look like, and how you want to be living, and who's going to be involved in that life that you have. In order to get to that future self, there's some things that will help you in that process. You need to know what your expenses are right now. And in that future you, when you're financially independent, I'm not even going to say retired because there's a lot of us that love what we do. And in retirement age, we keep doing all those great fun things we want to do, right? So your goals might be very similar to what they are today, but hopefully it's with a little bit more financial security. And so you might need 80 to 90% of the income that it takes you today in the future when you head towards retirement age. And then we need to look at how we can make the dreams that you have a reality. And if you want to share what your goals are for that 20-year-old self, put it in the chat or the comment section. That'd be great. When it comes to planning for the future, everybody has goals, and some people have very general goals. And they might say, I want to have $1 million when I'm 70 years old, or I want to be a billionaire. But those goals are not specific, they're not measurable. So I want you to think about some SMART goals. Let's come up with a couple SMART goals. So specific means that it's more than just a random number. Um, it could be, I want to make $100,000 a year for the next 5 years. Now, is that measurable? Being able to track your progress, saying for 5 years, $100,000, that could be measurable. And it does have benchmarks, which are important. Is it attainable? So if you're making 20,000 or 50,000 now, do you think in the next 5 years you're going to be able to make 100,000? Or are you making 80 or 90,000 a year now? And you do have the ability to earn a little bit of extra money. Maybe you're picking up more work as a performer or in your field, and that number is going to be able to increase. Is it relevant? So, big picture, why are you setting the goal that you're setting? If your goal is to increase your savings and investing or to make your life more comfortable, then it might be very well relevant. And is it time based? Yep, we said 5 years. So that's great. We have a time set that we're going to measure our success. Now, remember that SMART goals can change. Your goals can change on a weekly, a monthly, a yearly, by decade. You can go and edit your goals as much or as little as you want. So keep that in mind, setting up goals that make more sense. Now, if you can, take a minute to think about a goal you have and make it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time based. And you can pause the recording while you write that down. And if you want to share a goal that you have, that would be great. So, why do people track their expenses? Anybody know? One reason that you might track your expenses, because a lot of people, when I sat down with them and we talk about how much money you spend every month, they go, "Oh, I know exactly what I spend on everything." And so we'll pull up a form and start putting numbers in. And what we find often is, many clients I've had do this. I'm like, "Oh, it looks like you have about $1,200 left after all your expenses." And they're like, "Huh, that's strange." And then you start talking about, well, what are you doing with that money? Are you saving it? And they're like, "I don't have that kind of money at the end of the month. I spend everything I make." So when you track your expenses, it helps you see a real picture of where you are today and where you were in the last month. So I like to have people, there's a couple different ways you can track. One, if you use credit cards, debit cards solely, then you can go back and you can pull up all your accounts and you can look at what you spent. Now, if you're somebody who buys things at a store that has multiple things like groceries and clothing and Amazon or Sam's Club or Costco, you might need to look at your receipts to see what categories the different items are that you're tracking so that you can put them in the correct categories as you keep track of your information. But that's one way to go back, and you can look back 2 or 3 months and then average it out to see what have I been spending and what do I spend my money on. When I'm working with a client, I let them have a miscellaneous category. So if there's something they spend money on, I want them to keep track of it, but I don't need to know what everything is because it's your money, it's your expenses, and it's your moving forward from here that matters. So it's important that you keep track of everything, but it's not as important that I know what you're keeping track of. Even though I'm not going to be judgmental, I'm not going to um, tell you you can't spend money on that anymore. We might have a discussion on how important it is to your goals, and that's really important. But remember, this is a non-judgment zone. The important thing is you have recorded every penny that you've spent. Some people find it good to track their expenses moving forward. So let's say it's going to be October 1st soon. I'm going to give you a notebook. You're going to write down everything that you spend in a notebook, or all of these examples we have here. Some people use cash envelopes. So the important thing is that you're tracking everything you spend. So whether you went back and did it or you're moving forward, all great ways to track your spending. So let's talk a little bit about some of these. Cash envelopes and jars. Some people, this is called the envelope system, put, okay, I think I'm going to spend $400 on groceries. And they put $400 in grocery money in an envelope and they use cash. And that is what they do for all of their expenses. Or sometimes they just use the envelope system for certain expenses that they feel after they've tracked their expenses are maybe out of control or they want to get a tighter grip on. So envelopes, jars, you can put your money for each month or each week, whichever way works for you, and then use that cash. Some people like Excel and they feel comfortable tracking their spending on Excel. You can put your different categories in there so that you can track what you're spending in every area. So that if you find out that you're spending a lot of money on rideshare, for example, or Amazon, or all those subscriptions that kind of creep up on people, those are what you're going to find out. You'll find out where you're spending your money and what you're spending on. And then you can align your goals and say, hey, my goals and my values say that I think this is really important, but you're spending in an area that might not be what you thought wasn't as important to you, but you're spending most of your money there. You can use a sticky note, put it in your purse, your wallet, and just write every day, what did I spend today? And then your financial institution, that's like your bank statement. Sometimes financial institutions have some really good programs within them. So you can see if they have tracking available. One of my bank accounts does have tracking, and I can go in there and I can look, and it tries its best to categorize things. And in the categories that they think that spending is. So you can correct that typically, or you can use other programs like the online apps I'm going to talk about. So I have just a few online apps here that were shared as some of the best apps by NerdWallet for 2024. Empower is one. Every Dollar is one. And you know what? If you use this, let us know which ones you use and what you like about it. Good Budget, that's like a digital wallet system. Honeydew, Monarch Money, Pocket Guard, and You Need a Budget. Those are all the different apps, and they have some are free, some cost money, some have free portions of them. So you can investigate, you can talk to friends, colleagues, family members, see what other people are using that you know, see what they like about it. And I would love for you to share what you think you like. And how do you track your money? Have you ever tracked your money? I would love to know if you've tracked your money already. That would be great. And let's move on. So once you've tracked your spending, the next thing we do is we're going to develop a plan. Now, the first thing I want to ask you is, what do you think a need is versus a want? For some people, a need might be different than a want, but for others, it might not. So having the internet, it might be a want for some people, but somebody who works from home and they're a computer programmer, working from home, that is definitely a need. So they might need to have the internet as part of their job. So just think about what wants and needs are. Sometimes people say needs are food, shelter, and clothing, right? But Does that mean going out to eat is a need or a want? Does that mean that living in a giant house or having a huge RV that you travel the country is a need, or is it a want? So I want you to think about that and think about the things that you have and the money that you spend and decide what things are needs and want. There's a great exercise that I love to have people do. I have them pull up their bank statements, their credit card statements, and print them off and get a highlighter out. Two highlighters. We're going to have two highlighters for this activity. And I want you to go through your bank statement and highlight in one color all the needs for 1 month. And then in the other column or the other color, highlight all the wants. Let's see what that looks like. And I want you to really just pay attention. Now, here we have an example of a pie chart that shows some examples of what somebody's spending plan might look like. You might have heard the word budget, cash flow, spending plan, and all of these are different ways that different people create the awareness of what they're spending or what they've already spent. I like to use budget as what was already spent. So when we track our expenses, then we take that and we put it in a budget and we see, here's what I've actually spent this month. And that can be really helpful because then you can determine, is this where I want all of this money to be? Or do I want it to go towards different things and different goals that I have set? And so what you can do is you can find areas to reduce. So if you're spending out of your $800 food budget for the month, if you're spending 400 of it eating out and you want to reduce that, you could say, okay, my goal is for my spending plan. And the spending plan I like to use as this is what we want to do next month, right? This is what I plan to spend my money on. You can take that and say, I want to spend 10% less or 20% less in this category. And so you can set up that goal to be for eating out, $340 or $360 instead of 400. And then take that 10% and put it towards something else, either one of your goals or something that you're going to be needing to pay in the future. And I want you to think also, because a lot of people who work in industries that have a varying amount of money that they receive every month, they might take their whole year and figure out what their spending was for the whole entire year and then divide it by 12. And then that will give them a really good idea of what their spending is for 12 months. And so as they are doing their budget and their spending plan, they will allocate a certain amount of money into a savings account so that they can plan for the months where there's going to be less money. So they just spend what they need for the month and what they have in their plan. And then all the extra goes towards that future month when the income is going to be less. So think about that. Do you already do that? I'm curious. Anybody do that already? All right. So I'm curious how many people have paid attention to their spending for a year. I know one of the things, if you use a credit card a lot, it's really nice at the end of the year. You get a year statement and it will put all your things in categories so that you can see. So if you've never done that and looked at your credit card statement, if you're a person who uses their credit card on a regular basis, you can check your spending there. Your financial institution might have a 1 year roll up too, but it might not be as easy to find, or they might not have it. But you can go back through your yearly bank statements and, you know, make a spreadsheet and put in the numbers for each month so that you can get an idea of what your annual spending is and then divide that by 12 and do that. So accountability is important. Do you have loved ones that you work with? Do you have loved ones that you talk about your money with? This is really great. So you can have friends, you can have family, you can have a financial professional, you can have somebody like me that's an accredited financial counselor, and I do coaching with clients to make sure that they're staying on track to meet and achieve their goals and even exceed their goals. So finding an accountability partner and holding yourself accountable are very important things. All right. So when you are setting up accounts, I just want to talk about this for a minute. You could set up accounts. Some people call them sinking funds. Some people call them vacation funds, but you can have different accounts. And some financial institutions actually let you have different buckets under the same plan. So if you have a savings account, they will let you have a bucket for vacation, a bucket for gifts, a bucket for travel, a bucket for whatever you're saving for, college, um, new instruments, anything like that. You can have separate accounts set up. And another thing that I have had people do when it comes to having separate accounts and setting up accounts is sometimes I have couples that all the money that goes towards their needs goes into one account where all the bills are paid and everything's covered. And then that extra money that's not going to be spent that month goes into a savings account that will pay for those needs down the road. But then they have something called a discretionary spending account. A discretionary spending account can be something like, I have a craft or a hobby. I like to golf. And that money is, I'm going to put $100 a month in my discretionary spending account. And that's what I have to spend for the month on this activity or items that I purchase. You know, I have people I know love video games and they put $50 a month in there. And so, they either save it up if they want to buy the next cool thing, or they spend it as they go for purchases. And that way, that's money that each partner doesn't have to approve. Uh, they don't have to squabble about it. They can have that as their spending. And discretionary means they can spend it on what they want to. So that is one idea that I've had a lot of couples, especially, find successful. And it almost aligns with parents and children when you think about it, you know, setting up a an allowance. That's very much a discretionary spending account in most situations. Some parents will set up savings, college, um, charity, and then the discretionary also. So then when they get money, they divide their money into four pots. So just something to think about there. Let's talk a little bit about insurance. Here are several different ways that insurance affect our life. And some people don't realize, but your credit can actually impact the rates that you get on your insurance policies. So keep that in mind. If you need to improve your credit, um, that can be something that would be helpful to help your insurance rates be a little bit lower, as well as when you go to get loans for a car, a house, things like that, it will help reduce the interest rates. So automobile insurance, you know, it's very important to know what your policies are, compare them. Um, every few years, you might want to check to make sure your home, auto, property, and rider insurances, and even health insurances are where you want them to be. Many people have, for health insurance policies, have open enrollment periods. So take a look at all the options available to you during that open enrollment and see if it makes a good fit. There are programs through the Affordable Care Act. Some of you might work in a place where you or your partner have health insurance for the family through an organization, a company that they work for, while others have to get theirs off the marketplace or qualify for Medicare, Medicaid, depending on your age. And it's still important to keep track of everything you need to know. Does it cover dental, vision? Do I have a PPO, a preferred provider organization? Do I have a health savings account? And how does that work? Those are all important things to keep in mind as you're planning for the future, because I want to tell you one thing. The biggest reason for bankruptcy, number one reason people file bankruptcy, is because of a healthcare situation. Healthcare costs can be astronomical if something happens. And then disability insurance plays into that too. So if you don't have disability insurance, that can be something that can be really important. Sometimes there are policies that cover specific body parts. Those can be very expensive. So you want to look at disability as a whole to see what it's going to cover and how it's going to cover you if you no longer are able to do the job that you're doing now or the job that you're doing in the future. So keep track of that. Rider policies can be really good for artwork, jewelry, and for you all, instruments, right? Instruments are something that you might want to insure. And so finding out from your insurance providers or finding a provider that does cover the kinds of things that you need to insure can be really important. So just look at the costs and make sure you have a time to compare. Don't just jump right into something. It's always good to check 2 or 3 policies and organizations if you can, if that's available. And then the other thing is life insurance. And you might know a little bit about term and you might know a little bit about whole life. Term policy is for a specific term. So if you buy a policy that's for 20 years, when that 20 years is up, you might be able to renew it. You might not. They usually get more expensive the older you get. And then a whole life policy is not for everyone. So you need to really look at those, and you can talk with a financial professional, talk to multiple life insurance broker dealers, and see what is out there that makes sense for you. All right. Let's go to the next page. This slide has a lot of information on it. And I'm just going to briefly mention a little bit about each. So each person does have different needs and wants, different risk levels, and it's very important for you to take into consideration where you are today and what you feel comfortable with doing now. Savings is different than investing. Usually savings account make very low interest. There are some things called high yield savings accounts. If you do those, make sure that they are FDIC insured, so that way, if something happens to the organization or the money, it's insured by the federal government. And then investing, you want to think about what your investing goals are. So let's think back to that 20-year-old self, or 20 years from now self, right? Our future self. Think about where you want to be and what you want to be doing. And your investments are all about your goals, priority, and risk tolerance. Some people I know are like, I'm going to put my money in something that makes a big interest. So that's a little bit more risky usually. And then other people are like, well, I'm going to keep it in a savings account. And then that actually doesn't even keep up with inflation. Usually, a regular savings account at a financial institution, unless it's a high yield savings account, and then that comes really close to keeping up with inflation. But a couple years ago, inflation rates were 8 to 9%, which nothing kept up with. So keep in mind, what are your goals? What are your priorities? Am I comfortable with this? How do I feel about it? And if you need to learn more about something, talk to a financial professional. Some of the terms here: asset allocation, diversification, rebalancing, and dollar cost averaging are all things that you could dig into and learn about. One of the places that I like to send people to read things is Investopedia. So if you check out Investopedia, they have great definitions on all kinds of things. And it's a great place to just start learning. There are some investment professionals that I highly recommend. And I want to give you a couple things about how to look for a financial professional that's going to invest your money. So I'm an accredited financial counselor. And what I do is I help people align their values, their goals, and their money. And I educate you on all areas of personal finance. And that is really a great place to start, is for you to get to know where you are and where you want to go. So then when you go work with somebody who's going to invest your money for you, then you can feel comfortable knowing what they're talking about and knowing what they're doing with your money. So one of the places that you can look at is finra.org, and they have a list of all the financial certifications and designations. There's over 200. There are only 10 that are accredited, which has gone a step beyond the regular way to get your certification acknowledged. And the AFC, the Accredited Financial Counselor, and the CFP, Certified Financial Planner, are two of those 8. So those are usually very reputable. They are fiduciaries, and they're going to make sure they're doing the right thing with your money and taking what your beliefs, goals, values are into consideration as they work with you. So you can go there and you can check that out. Also, on that website, they have something called BrokerCheck. So you can look up the people in your area, you can look up the financial professional you're working with, and you can see their ratings, their work history. Have they had any complaints, anything like that? Very good to know those couple things to look at when you're trying to find a new financial professional, or even look at who you're working with now to see if there's maybe somebody you want to change from one to another type of investor. So there's active and passive investment approaches, which can be really important to think, do I want to be really involved? Do I want to step back and let my money just make money for me? And we're going to talk a little bit about how the compounding and what that looks like in just a minute. But first, I want to just talk a little bit about retirement plans, because a lot of people, especially if they're self-employed, they don't pay their future self and they don't start that investment early on. And if you have children that are in the industry and they're working, you can set up, for example, a Roth IRA, which is our first one listed here. The income that they earn, up to $7,000, can go into a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is something that is like the money that comes out of your wallet. You've already paid taxes on it. It's income that you've earned, and all taxes and everything are taken out already. But what is unique about a Roth is that when you take the money out, as when you reach full retirement age, and there's certain other circumstances that you can take money out. But when you take that money out, you're not taxed. You're not paying taxes on it. The other accounts here that are listed here are accounts that are pre-tax. So you put your money in, and it actually will reduce your income level when you've put that money in. So you're paying less on taxes typically. So you won't pay taxes on this money until you take it out. So a SEP IRA is one of those things that can help you save if you're self-employed. And a solo IRA is also something that can help you save as an entrepreneur. And then a simple IRA is another option. So these are all things that you can look into, look at the rules around them, see which one fits best with you. One of the questions I have for you, have you ever logged in to Social Security? Have you created an account? A really good thing to do is to check your Social Security online and see, is my income being reported correctly? If you're filing as a self-employed person, remember those self-employment taxes and that income goes towards your Social Security as well. So that is going to show. So if you have some years that you had no income, there's going to be some zeros, and that doesn't contribute towards your Social Security benefits. So every year that you have income that counts towards your Social Security benefits, it increases the amount that you will be getting as you get older and are ready to start drawing from that Social Security. So things to check into. Now let's look at, okay, this is really, really tiny. You might want to take a closer look at some point. But I have two people. Let's say we have twins. One starts investing in an account, they contribute at 23, 1,000, at 24, 2,000, at 25, 3,000, and they continue until they're 32. So for 10 years, they contributed $27,000. The other twin at 23 decided not to contribute to any retirement plan or savings at all, or investment account, I should say. But at 31, they start and they contribute until they're 67 years old. And they have invested $105,000. So this is going to show you why does saving early really matter. So let's look at the overall savings here. Let's say our twin, let's get my little arrow out, saved 20,000, 27,000 they invested. Their growth until 67 is going to be about 1.157 million, right? So great, over a million. And then our other twin invested 105 and theirs only grew to 820. And why is that? It's because the contributions that were invested early on had more growth time. And that growth makes a huge, huge, huge difference. So the earlier you start investing for your future self, the better it is for your wallet and for your future self to spend the money they want to. What do you think are some strategies for saving early? I would love for you to come up with some of those and put them in the comments. So when you're thinking about retirement planning, and I don't even like to use retirement planning because I'm retired and I work a lot because I love what I do. I like to call it financial independence. So if I decided, oh, I just didn't want to work with these people anymore, I could stop working and I could figure something new out because I have the money to be able to do that. I have money set aside. So I'm going to think about, what is my lifestyle going to look like when I do want to stop working full time or working altogether? And then look at the short term planning and the long term planning to reach those goals. And then look at what your income sources are going to be in retirement. Do you have a 401k? Do you have a SEP IRA? Do you have a Roth IRA? Do you have residuals that are coming in from music that you've written or produced? What kind of things do you have that help you reach that goal? Is your goal 1 million? Is it 2 million? Is it to live comfortably in one of my kids' houses? What do you want your goals to be? And think about this one thing. I just want to bring this up because the percentage of people who are no longer working in their 50s before full retirement age is very big. And you know why that is? Because oftentimes people have had an accident, or they end up with a disability, or they become sick, or they're caring for a loved one or family member or a partner that can no longer work. And there is a growing number of people that are stopping the workforce early to take care of other people or because of situations that in their own life happen. So you want to prioritize your financial goals and look at all those great things that we have available to us and those income sources that they have. I have some really unique ones that a lot of people don't have. So sometimes thinking outside the box can be interesting. I have a cell phone tower and I have forestry land. And my forestry land, I'm going to harvest in my early 70s, and that will give me plenty of income. But I plan to help my kids and grandkids out as well for the future. And I think that knowing that I have those two income streams besides all the other things I have, I have two 401ks and a pension, and there's lots of things that help me become a little bit more financially independent. And I have a very well stocked Roth IRA, which can be inherited by my children, which can be something that you think about too is future planning. Who do you want to leave things to if you do have enough money to live in retirement and end up not spending all of it? So think about what your spending plan will be in retirement. Are you going to travel? I love travel. I am traveling all the time. Um, it's just something that I love doing. I like meeting people, going places, and I have inexpensive ways to do that. And then I have some somewhat expensive ways to do that. And I have them all in my plan for retirement. So I make sure I have enough money to cover all of those every year without digging into my other funds. So think about that. The other thing to think about is if you have some of those retirement accounts, at some point you're going to you're going to need to take out the RMDs. And that means there's a certain percentage that you have to take out once you hit a certain age. And that could be 72, 73. And they will divide your account balance and determine how much you need to take out. And you'll have to take that amount out. So some people do consider doing something like a Roth conversion where they take their 401ks or their IRA programs and they roll them over into a Roth account so that way they don't have to worry about spending down their 401ks and other retirement investments. But that's something that you can look at with your financial professional. I have really enjoyed talking to you about all of this. And if you have questions, I would love to hear them. This QR code here is a survey. Let me know what you want to hear more about. Let me hear what you think about the program today. Just keep in mind where you want to be and setting smart goals and tracking your expenses and making a plan for what you want to spend aligned with your priorities and your values so that you can reach those financial goals and the financial independence that you want in the future. Thank you very much and have a great day.